Okay, the next installment of fixing my BSA C15 clutch arm, the inner clutch lever or arm. Here's what I've done so far. This is the clutch lever arm. It had a notch in it here from where the old piece had wiggled back and forth over the years and made a notch there. I had that filled in at a welding shop. I cut a little piece of steel, had that filled in. I've drilled this hole out larger, and this is what I've started making the new plunger piece with. This is actually a linch pin. I think it's a 1/4 inch linch pin. And I cut this groove here, and this is going to replace that plunger unit. And so I drilled that hole out in the arm slightly larger, and also the hole in the linch pin slightly larger, because I had this laying around. I drilled that hole in it myself there, but this is going to be the pin that holds this together. If I can even get it in there now, but you get the idea. There we go. All right, and I drilled that little small, tiny hole in there so that I can use a cotter pin as a safety measure to make sure that doesn't come out. Inside the bike, it'll be, well, I put this pin in here backwards, but inside the bike, this will be the orientation for this pin. So it's unlikely that it will jump all the way out of there, but just for safety, I drilled a hole in it, and I'm going to use this cotter pin to make sure that it never disengages. The next step is to figure out how long this piece here should be and cut it. Okay, we're back with the C15 BSA clutch arm repair. I've cut the plunger piece to length, as you can see now. The new piece that I've made is in my left hand here, and here's what's left of the stock piece. That's the chunk missing from it. I'll turn it so that it looks, you can see it in all of its glory there. You can see that the new piece that I've made is substantially more beefy than the stock piece that it's replacing. And the critical dimension that I needed was from the bottom of this groove, how far, what is this distance right here? That is what I needed to know. So I measured the stock piece, which is somewhere in between, it's about 6.5 millimeters. I think that this groove was worn on the stock piece. I don't think anybody would make that exactly 6.5 millimeters. So I believe it was originally 7 millimeters. Based on that guesswork and also my research on the internet, I've found a blog where another fella did this exact same repair. So I just determined from the bottom of that groove to the top that should be 7 millimeters. And as you can see, I got it right at 7 millimeters. I first measured that distance with my micrometer when this was still one big long chunk, and I stuck just the tip in that little groove there, and this showed me exactly 7 millimeters. Anyway, just imagine that said 7 millimeters there. Now it does. And then I took a little Sharpie marker and I made a little mark on this side, made a little mark on the other side. And I took that blue painter's tape and I carefully wrapped it all the way around, and then I measured it to make sure that that painter's tape, the edge of that painter's tape was right at 7 millimeters. Then I loaded this, then I chucked this thing in my vise, and I took a handheld hacksaw and slowly cut through this thing. You could cut through that thing a lot faster with a rotary cutoff disc, but you don't want to. You'll gouge it, or you'll come in too short. You'll mess it up. If you do it slow with a hacksaw by hand, odds are you'll get it right. I left this just ever so slightly taller than 7 millimeters because I knew I would have to dress the face of it. This is kind of a jagged edge here, and you can see it's not perfectly flat, and I'll dress it with the hand file. So the next step with this is to find a nice fat ball bearing and drill a hole right here, drop that ball bearing in there, and then pinch the sides of the metal by pounding one here and the one there, little divots that'll mushroom out the metal a little bit and hold the ball bearing in place. I'm going to measure the ball bearing, and then the hole I'm going to drill, I want to be 1 millimeter less than the diameter of the ball bearing, because I want the ball bearing to stick up above the face of this plunger by about 1 millimeter. So the hole will be 1 millimeter shy of the diameter of the ball bearing. I'll drop the ball bearing in there. Then I will take a punch and punch little divots on either side of the top here, mushrooming out this metal a little bit, pinching that ball bearing and holding it into place. The ball bearing should still be able to spin around, but it won't fall out.